Hi, I'm Nadia Combs, Chair of the Hillsborough County School Board. I want to welcome you to Hillsborough County Public Schools. We serve more than 200,000 students. That includes children in preschool through adults in our workforce program.
I'm Henry Shake Washington, the Board Vice Chair. Our district is the 7th largest in America, and our team is made up of more than 24,000 people working at nearly 250 sites across the county.
Our district is diverse and dedicated. Our board meetings are held in our board auditorium on select Tuesdays at 4 p.m. The best way to serve our students and our community is to involve you, the public, in what we do.
You are welcome to email or meet with any of our board members and follow our district on social media. Board meetings are covered live by Hillsborough Schools TV on Spectrum Cable Channel 635 and Frontier Cable Channel 32.
Meetings are also streamed live on our website at hillsboroughschools.org. Closed captioning is provided on all broadcasts, and past meetings are available in our online archive.
We are interested in what the public has to say. We'll include time for audience comments before we address our business items. Our agenda and any supporting materials can be viewed online in advance. They are posted 7 days before each meeting on our website at hillsboroughschools.org.
Our vision is preparing students for life, and that means all students, every day. Todos los estudiantes, todos los días. Thank you for your interest in education. With your help, we're making decisions that shape our community's future.
The special call board meeting of June 27, 2023 is called to order. Member Washington will now lead us in a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Member Washington. We have one withdrawn item today, and that's 40390-day consulting agreement with Human Capital, and that was withdrawn. I need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. I have a motion by Member Gray. I have a second by Member Perez. Any discussion? Please vote when your lights appear. And it passes unanimously. Let the record reflect that all board members are present today. Board members, I'd like to go over the format of today's meeting. As a reminder, we're a nonpartisan board who believe that all children can be empowered to learn to succeed, and our decisions will be made with that understanding. To pave the way for efficient and effective agenda statements and or questions, board members will have 5 minutes to speak with 30 seconds left for final thoughts. Afterward, the superintendent can respond. If you have further questions, you're asked to get back into the queue. Member Washington will now read the board guidelines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we begin this morning meeting, let me quickly review the format of our school board meetings. Please silence all electronic devices. There are speakers in the room behind me that allow board members to hear the meeting from stepping away from the dais. This meeting can be viewed with closed caption on live webcast on cable TV. It also can be viewed with closed caption in the online video archive.
Okay. Thank you, Member Washington. There is no public comment today, so we will move right into the discussion agenda, which is 402, interim superintendent contract. Mr. Jim Porter, our school board attorney, will highlight this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. The board on June 20th appointed Van Ayers as interim superintendent for a one-year term beginning on July 15th and ending on July 12th, 2024. As part of that, the board needs to approve a contract for him. So before you for consideration today to approve is the contract for the interim superintendent. As I noted to you in an email yesterday, the contract is substantially similar to the one currently with Mr. Davis. As pointed out by, or is brought up by Ms. Vaughn, there is a 30-day out for the board. So the board has the ability to terminate the superintendent with 30 days written notice without cause. That's a very significant feature of this contract. There's also provisions in the contract to terminate him for cause for a list of things that would justify that. But that doesn't provide a lot of protection for Mr. Ayers, but it does give this board the ultimate ability to decide who's going to lead the district as the superintendent. The salary is the same, but Mr. Davis had built into his contract a series of raises commencing on July 1st, 2023. That's not part of this interim contract. Mr. Ayers will receive a straight salary with no built-in increases. At the end of the contract, the board can decide whether they would want to renew it or whether they would want to terminate it at the termination date. But that's pretty much it. It's a standard contract otherwise that is representative of large school districts in Florida. So that's the contract before you. So you need a motion and a second to approve, and then you can have a discussion, if any, about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Porter. I need a motion, a second to approve item C402. I have a motion by member Gray. I have a second by member Washington. Any discussion? And we'll begin with member Hahn.
Thank you, Member Combs. So it's been a great week. Since we made the decision to appoint interim superintendent Van Ayers, it was a wonderful opportunity for the board to really come together and unanimously appoint you, and I'm so thrilled. We've seen really an impact in our morale immediately and continuing to improve each and every day. And, I think that change is hard, and it's hard to say goodbye, but change can also be refreshing. And, even though goodbyes can be sad, change can be exciting as well. So I think that's what we're seeing. It was the same type of excitement we saw when we hired Superintendent Davis. People get excited. It's somebody new. So enjoy it while you can. It moves fast and things change, but, 28 years in this district, people know you're a known commodity, Mr. Ayers, and I'm happy to support this contract today. And I think that the only thing I would like to address is the start date. I know that it says here that it's commencing on July 15th. You have 28 years experience in this district. You have many cabinet members who have equal amount of experience in this district. You've already hit the ground running. You've been driving the strategic plan right alongside Superintendent Davis each and every day for the last few years. And before that, you worked hand in hand with Superintendent Akins. You have really hit the ground running. And, I would like to change the start date of this contract and make a motion to change that date to effective today, and transfer all the responsibilities and all that goes with the position of superintendent effective immediately. Certainly honor the resignation date of paying Superintendent Davis through his resignation date. But I don't see really any reason that we should wait 1 second longer. There's a lot of work to be done. We're in summer school's starting. There are decisions to be made about fall. And, I don't want to really lose any more time. We're on a really good trajectory here. I think for the next few weeks, Superintendent Davis could offer you his assistance, but, he's also, has a family, and they're no longer here, and it's a priority for him, as it should be. All of our families should always come first, and I really respect that. I know that's a tough decision to balance career and family, but that will give him the relief to go and be with his family and still be able, to provide that support over the next few days. So my motion is to change the date to effect.
That would require a second. So, okay, if you could clear the board for a second, please, Pablo. So Ms. Perez has seconded the motion, so you can debate that about whether, before you get into the approval of the contract, whether you would change the start date from July 15th to June 27th. If there's any discussion about that, you would put them, yeah.
We're going to discuss that. Member Perez?
Yeah, I echo the sentiments of Member Hahn. You know, Mr. Ayers has an incredible, solid foundation here, history with this district that spans, you know, I'm not going to say your age, but a couple of decades. But, you know, and this, you know, according to the phone calls I've received, the chatter in the district has been a positive move for this community, just like Member Vaughn mentioned. And the district has an enormous, I just, you know, realized the enormous respect that they have for you. And so, you know, I do, you know, support that June 27th. But also, you know, Superintendent, you know, you've done a tremendous work here as well, you know, and I respect, you know, the work that you've done hand in hand with me for mental health. I mean, we've driven that force forward, you know, to help and support our students. You know, I have a tremendous amount of respect, but just like Member Hahn said, family is so important. And, you know, the mental health of our family members also comes first and foremost. So, you know, to get you there faster, you know, with them is also, you know, one of my first and foremost steps. So, and Mr. Ayers knows exactly what he was doing and what he will continue to do, as he has been supporting you, you know, there by your side as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Gray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a little bit more cautious, and because I am reminded too, when we had the loss of Mary Ellen Illia from a firing of 4 board members and then the hiring of the same board members, very popular, very well-loved man, Jeff Akins, beloved by the community, by the business community, by the Hillsborough County PTA, by most, yes, just about most principals. And what happened is those quick decisions did not give necessarily him the chance, the learning space, financially, politically, also very importantly, the idea of a visionary, what plans, where should we go from here? Because unlike Jeff Akins, who didn't have the chance to inherit staff members, we had to bring in a chief of staff. Mary Ellen Illia had a vision, and for everything from magnet schools to bringing in, which is argumentatively not the most popular, the Gates Grant because of the need for monies. There is a lot of room for vision. There is so much to be gained by inheriting experience, and so much to be gained by listening to the community. We are reflective, each of us, of the community. And while Member Perez says that she has heard from the community, and that is probably very correct, my own self, which is community by community, countywide, I'm not hearing the same as far as the quickness versus being a little bit more cautious. I also feel, with respect to Van Ayers, who is very loved and beloved, and every one of us have voted for him, I also feel it's not fair to him, because while we are giving him this confidence, who are we to say that he doesn't need the added reassurance and guidance from a former, here and now superintendent, who has done a marvelous job in so many ways. So I've seen superintendents win and I've seen them fail. And I'll speak to all 5 of them because I worked very closely with Mary Ellen Ely on the middle schools for years. And Jeff Akins and, of course, Member Perez has also worked with Akins and Stacy Hahn, Member Hahn. But I don't want to settle. I want us to be the best district. I want that superintendent to have the best guidance, the best preparation. We know that every superintendent fits the need of the time. Superintendent Davis, we had a sense of urgency. You had a very popular superintendent before you. You took over, very new, cut the bureaucracy, lowered the staff, helped us financially because we were in a free fall. Previous to that, as Akins had to go for a referendum successfully. You fit the need of the time, and of course COVID hit, and there you were. And every superintendent has a role to play, but they have to be prepared. And I just caution the board that we do nurture and love and have trust in Van Ayers, but we cannot be personality based. We have to be pragmatic. We have to be calculating who we choose and how we choose. And right now, and I thank Superintendent Davis for offering that time. Thank you, Board, and thank you, Madam Chair. My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Rendon?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Superintendent Davis. I mean, when you came in 2020, nobody could have predicted your first couple months of serving this community, and taking us through such a tumultuous time was done with such leadership and such grace. And so I think that is something we will always commend you for, and we appreciate it. On top of that, you took this district from a financial negative and really created a positive structure and environment that will last this district for a very long time. And I think that as a public, we need to understand that that was not an easy feat. Not only did you do it in such a time of difficulty, but you did it with grace. And so thank you so much. It's very hard to make those hard decisions at a time where the community is struggling, the nation was struggling, and this district was struggling. And not only did you bring us above that, but you made us strong for the next. And so that is something to be truly thanked. I think what we miss in Member Hahn's recommendation is the moment we voted in interim Superintendent Ayers, he automatically was given that title of superintendent. The difference was we are co-superintendent right now. And I think where Dr. Hahn was coming from is really giving a sense of leadership to this district, not taking away anything from Superintendent Davis, because Superintendent Davis has been very gracious. And as Dr. Hahn said, that he will continue over the next course from now until the 15th to provide all the support and education and guidance to Superintendent Ayers as we move forward. And so I think it's not even a matter of, I appreciate the fact of spending time with family. Superintendent Davis and I've had that conversation many times because I myself have to juggle that. But I'm going to look at it from a business standpoint. And as a business standpoint, if there's two leaders, there's no leaders. We have to have a clear leader within the district so that we know when things are going on. And so I appreciate Dr. Hahn for making that suggestion, because I think it's critically important that as a district, we recognize that interim superintendent Ayers will be moving forward with the district. And so that there's no need to wait on such a thing as that. And Superintendent Davis has been so gracious to give his advice and counsel to Superintendent Ayers, and I think that is critically important that we understand that one doesn't supersede the other. I think it takes the heat off Superintendent Davis, that he can truly be preparing Superintendent Ayers, and then Superintendent Ayers, you'll be in a position to be making the decisions with that support. Because if superintendent stays as the main contact and our main superintendent, then there's not the point of decision to have the guidance. And I think that's what we need to look at, that we need to have those experiences to utilize Superintendent Davis for what we need him for. And I sincerely appreciate his time and effort and willing to do that. So I do support Dr. Hahn's decision because I think it's a very sensible decision to allow interim superintendent Ayers to be in the position to make the hard decisions with a time in which of guidance. I look at myself as a parent. I want my kids to experience the hard stuff when they live under my roof, so I'm able to provide that guidance. And that's exactly what Davis can provide to Superintendent Ayers up until the time in which he's no longer with us. And we wish him so well. So I do support this because I think it's a good business decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Rendon. Member Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also support Dr. Hahn. I think that was a great suggestion. Superintendent, first of all, I want to thank you because you came in during a difficult time, and I can't think of anybody else could have come in at this period of time and made those tough decisions. You know, when you're a leader going into a position, many a times when you go into a position, you have to take a tough decision. You have to make tough decisions, and you were the right person for the job, and you made tough decisions. You got us out of the money hole. We were deep in money. And you got us out of it. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for all your hard work mornings you calling 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, man, did this guy ever get some sleep? But that's what we need. And I would call back in days of the military when we brought in generals or when we brought in command sergeant majors, they had to make tough decisions, first sergeants. And you made a tough decision and you got us out the hole. And I truly want to thank you for that because you've done a great job. Van, moving on, Van, we've been knowing each other for years. You've been through the system. You've been through the ranks. You've been a deputy superintendent already. So you will do a great job. I feel you can do a great job. Even the people that don't like me like the decision that we made. And that's great for us. But at the end of the day, I feel, and we feel as a board, that you could do the job. So, you know, I appreciate the superintendent being there, giving you a hand, looking over your shoulder, but you can do the job because you've been there before. You've been through the rough times in Hillsborough County. You came in 16, 17, somewhere in there with Jeff, and we had some rough times then, and you survived, and I have confidence in, you know, you've been a principal, you know, you've been through the ranks. And being a leader, you have to know certain things because you have the experience, you've been through it. And you're not a rookie. So we're not saying he's a rookie superintendent because he's not. He's very experienced, have done great job at Blake. You worked at Blake. You got us out the hole within curriculum. You did a great job. Then you went to Jefferson High School and did a fantastic job. In fact, people hated to see you leave when you left Jefferson, but we needed you at the district. So you have been here at the district for a long period of time. And I know about great leaders because I've been in for 42 years. So I've seen them all from top to bottom, the good, the bad, the ugly. I've seen them. So I want to say congratulations, and I know you will do a great job, Mr. Ayers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Washington. Member Vaughn.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to clarify. We're talking about a little over 2 weeks right now, right? That's what the discussion is about. I just want to make sure because it seems like a lot of discussion about 2 weeks or a little over 2 weeks or so. So that's what we're talking about. Okay. You know, for me, I can see the value in both, right? Having a little more time to tie up some loose ends or whatever that looks like. I don't know what you guys have already worked out or where you're at. So for me, I would really like to ask you guys, or especially Superintendent Ayers, what you feel comfortable with. If you feel like you need that extra time, the little over 2 weeks, or if you feel like you're ready to lead now. To me, I would like to defer and hear what our superintendents think because, you know, I don't feel like it's really up to me as much as you guys being leaders. So if I may ask Superintendent Ayers at this point or whomever where you guys feel comfortable with, I'd like your guidance on this. I'll ask Superintendent Ayers first and then I'll defer to Superintendent Davis.
Thank you very much. First off, the relationship that we have and the relationship we've had over the last 3 years, I'm ready to start and lead today.
Okay.
Regardless of the decision that's made, the two of us are going to work together through July 15th, and I'm sure after that date, to continue this work. We have done tremendous work over the last 3 years, and I am excited to lead this school district. But as far as this relationship, nothing's going to change with this relationship and his guidance that he's given me over the last 3 years. So regardless of the decisions made today, it's not going to change the way that we work, but I am absolutely ready to lead this district today. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Superintendent Davis, any thoughts that you have?
Yes, ma'am. I agree. It's kind of awkward having two leaders in a school district. So in that process, I've been trying to be very graceful and be in the background for Mr. Ayers. I think it's important for this community to see Mr. Ayers as a leader and driver of this organization. However, I want this board to understand that, I gave 1,000% every single day. And I know that we have cabinet members and board members that can help Mr. Ayers lead the work. And I'll only be a phone call away wherever he needs to be able to help him, because I want to help him personally be successful regardless of all the other noise that surrounds the work. So with that said, I don't want to be a barrier. I just want to be someone that can help be a strategist in this process and ready to help this district and help Mr. Ayers in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that feedback. That helps me a lot instead of just trying to make a decision based on, whatever I think. Also, I've sat on this board for, almost 3 years now, and I've watched many board members get very emotional through transitions. And I can see why now. It's hard when you work with people every single day and you build relationships and you work together to say goodbye. Transitions are hard. And I've watched Member Hahn specifically cry many times and thought, geez, that seemed a little dramatic. But now I understand it's a lot, to have transitions. So I just want to say thank you. Our relationship has come a long way. And I haven't always agreed with everything that you've done and vice versa, but you have always been very respectful to me, and you've always answered the phone when I called, and you've been open to, my point of view, and you've worked very hard to make every single one of us happy. And, I really appreciate your leadership, and I will miss you and miss your leadership on the board. You always laugh at my jokes.
Yes,
ma'am. So thank you for all the hard work that you've given. I wish you nothing but best, whatever your future looks like. You will always have a place here in Hillsborough County. Controversial sometimes, and I'm excited to see what, leadership looks like under Superintendent Ayers. I'm excited to see what our superintendent search looks like and, what that's going to lead us to. So I just want to say thank you to everybody and to my fellow board members for, during this transition. It could have been a lot more dramatic than it is, this entire process. And I'm excited about the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn, and thank you for those really heartfelt words. And I'm not going to get started because I will cry too. So, Superintendent Davis, you've done an incredible job during such a hard time. I could list all the things that you've done, accomplished, but absolutely, when you look at the technology and how people were pushing back against first class, I don't think people could imagine us still using that. And as I, put my daughter in college, and she was very aware of Canvas and so many of our students, at the end of the day, I told you that what you've done here is what matters is what you've done for children and what you've done for students, and made sure that we're financially stronger, also moving us up academically. And probably for me, one of the biggest strengths is putting the right people in the right place. I say this all the time, that the most important person is the administrator at the school, and you have really found those great leaders and positioned them in the right place. And you can see that and feel that as students are moving up. I also have been lucky enough to see your relationship between you and Mr. Ayers for the last year and a half or whatever since I've been on this board. So for me, it's not a question of time. I know both of you are lifelong friends, and you're going to work together, and you'll continue to communicate. So I know the decisions that will be made. Obviously, we'd like to give Superintendent Ayers that ability to start hiring, but I know it's going to be both of you working together, and I know you'll continue to communicate, because at the end of the day, it's so much bigger than it being about us or about all of you. It's about the thousands and tens of thousands of students in the district, and the huge needs that are now, our academic needs, our mental health needs, all the challenges, the 1,000 positions we have open. We have so many challenges ahead. We all need to come together and continue working together. And that's the most important thing, is just continuing. We have such a strong board. I look at, Superintendent Ayers is very supported. I felt that when you received that interim position. And then the other day, everywhere I go, people are very excited about you in that position. And I think that you've helped Mr. Ayers learn and become stronger, and he's going to do a great job leading this board. So I agree. I support, your motion, Member Hahn, and I think that it's a good idea. And as we know, we're going to continue working together. Thank you. Member Perez or Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Combs. I think just in response to some of the comments today, there is a difference today. This is a friendly transfer of power compared to past experiences. And so that puts us in a different place. And I think this smooth transition has had an awful lot to do with Superintendent Davis's leadership. He's set the stage for this through how he has been leading all this time and building relationships. And that's why this has been received positively. This is why it's been a smooth transition. And I think that, we wouldn't be here without that. I think that, it's not, saying goodbye is not easy. It's really hard, especially when you go through some of the most probably difficult years that we've ever seen and probably will ever see again in education. I'm really proud of the decision that I made along with Member Perez and Member Gray when we hired Superintendent Davis. I was, it was a wonderful decision, and it was timely, for such a time as this. We're all put in the place that we're at, I believe, for a bigger purpose. And it's not by coincidence that we're all sitting here together today. We're meant to be here together, and we're meant to be on this journey. And, I think it's been just a wonderful experience. It was to go through this last 3 years and the issues we've had. You've always made this, me and I'm sure many of my colleagues, feel like a partner in this work. And it's been very student focused. And, that's what's made it a real pleasure to work with you. And I do really respect the love and care you have for your family. And, and your wife, Natalie, is just a wonderful person, and she's fun. You must have fun, because you must be missing her, because she's a lot of fun, and she's smart, and she's a wonderful, I'm sure, wife and a wonderful mother. And your kids are on this great new, your daughter's on a new journey after college, and you've got one more year left with your youngest in high school. And I know how precious. I have one more year left with my twins in high school, and you want to be close to them. You don't want to miss a second. So it's been a great 3 years, and I know you're only a phone call away, not just for Mr. Van Ayers, but for all of us too. You have a great deal of wealth of experience, and I hope we can continue to tap into that every once in a while. So thank you, and I appreciate the time, Member Combs.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Perez?
Yeah, I just wanted to tap back with you, Superintendent. You have a great role in Mr. Ayers being who he is, because he followed you. He looked at your leadership, and he was able to be by your side during these 3 years. So you have a major role in creating who he is. Yes, thank you, and mentoring him into the amazing person he is. I know, maybe about a year ago, you redirected this board to say, hey, if you have something, reach out to Mr. Ayers. And you started crafting him into an incredible leader for this district. But also, I want to talk about our finances. when I was first elected to this district in 2018, we were in the red, just coming out of a $350 million deficit. I want the listeners to hear that, $350 million deficit. And then when I was elected, it was $176 million deficit. And today, we are in the black. Well, and that is because you made some very difficult decisions that maybe a lot of people did not. I'm going to tell you, when I first got elected, I was sweating it out. I'm like, wow, this, but, and, like myself and two other board members on this board that we sat during that superintendent search and listened to you and, along with everyone else, and we selected you, like Member Hahn said, we were able to pick the strong of the many. And here we are because we were able to do that. And so, Mr. Ayers, this incredible space that we are financially, you must keep it going and must keep the ship, direct and afloat. Thank you. And, not just make this board proud, but also keep Mr. Davis's legacy going. But I'm really proud of you for doing that and making the decisions that you made, and uniting this board, and keeping those decisions along with you, and keeping us strong. So I just wanted to thank you for that. But also because Mr. Ayers learned from that as well. And I think that'll make him an even stronger superintendent as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What has happened in this course of conversation, which, you really do have, both of you have great board members who really have put their thoughts and their part of their lives into the future of this district, as you both have. And in my own mind, they're incredible. Whether they agree or disagree with each other, they still are incredible. And you are very fortunate to have the individuality of each of us. And obviously, we do speak our mind, whether we agree or disagree. But getting back to the actual conversation as I'm listening and wrote down a few things, I had a question. Van Ayers, continue after July 15th. Does that mean that, and Addison, Superintendent Davis, that mean that you two are going to continue after July 15th? What was that?
No. So if the amendment passes, Mr. Ayers would be the interim superintendent beginning today.
Right.
And so that it would, and the contract reads July 15th. So the contract, if this passes, instead of for a period commencing on July 15th, it would be for a period commencing on June 27th. So it would be today instead of 2 weeks from now, or about 2 weeks from now.
Okay, well, the quote was continue after July 15th, and that's, I didn't know if your relationship was that where you are going to be engaging in any way strategically, but can you...
I think that was referring, I don't want to speak for both of you, but I think Mr. Davis has graciously agreed to help Mr. Ayers in any way possible, even when this goes into effect.
Just through the chair, that's solely up to the superintendent in this board to determine what relationship, if any, goes. I put it in, extended my offer in because my contract was 120 days, and I said completely it's up to the determination of this board and the will of Superintendent Ayers. So. With that said, I'll always answer the phone call, when I'm available to be able to help Mr. Ayers be successful.
And thank you. Superintendent Davis, and thank you, Mr. Porter, for clarification. So in my mind, from what I heard from both of you, there has been and this is maybe men talk, an agreement with both of you that you are okay with starting right away. And that was something that is new to me. I had thought that this was an agreeable, for lack of better words, a month that both of you felt you would need each other during this time. But now we are hearing that that might not be the case. And if it's, and really, Member Vaughn hit it on the head, listening to both of you is very, very important, because if you don't feel like you need to be here any longer, and likewise, if Van Ayers feels like he's ready to start, I quote, on day one, then that changes everything, and that makes the motion from Member Hahn appropriate, because both of you are agreeing. So I don't know if you want to remark on that, but if you're fine, then obviously we're going to be fine. So, and really reflecting on the greatness and the value of Superintendent Davis, we can go on and on about the wonderful work you've done, and it's very important. And the innovative work that you have begun in schools, you kept them competitive. You actually brought, now ESSER, to the point of Member Perez, ESSER has given us millions and millions of dollars, and we were very comfortable. But Van Ayers, remember, ESSER is no longer there to help us, and we will be seeing financially a lot of aggravating and challenging situations. And I'm not here to tell you what you're going to face or not, but I do want to continue my thank yous to Superintendent Davis with respect to you were student-centered, and you also became principal-centered. You're a principal advisory, which I had the pleasure of spending a few years on. You totally have them engaged, and you really symbolized what they need and what they wanted and what would be best for the district and their school sites. You handled COVID with grab and go, with computers, with Wi-Fi spots. I mean, the amount of emergency calls that you were asked to do, and this board were, you can't even enumerate. You went on, and hopefully, and this board has been faced with such, especially the new board members, with such high-level challenges, and Van Ayers, you went through them also. So, and I want to thank also the braveness and the courage, Superintendent Davis, that you have put forth in getting our technology up to date, which is over 15 years old or more, and putting the one-on-one systems in the hands of the students, and really spending a little bit more time and energy and supports with our transformation schools. You've done a lot for this district, and a lot for those high needs, marginalized communities. And you need to be with your family, and when all is said and done, we all do. We all cherish our families, but always said by me to you is, are you taking care of yourself? And we always talk about family, so I understand. Thank you for your service, always.
Thank you, Member Gray. So we're going to vote right now what's on the floor, which is that you're going to vote yes if you would like Superintendent Ayers to go ahead and start today.
Correct.
And then you will vote no if you would like to continue what we have on track, which means the change of power would be on July 15th.
And I'll just add that this is a contract between two parties, and Mr. Ayers has indicated on the record that he is willing to accept the amendment. So that's an important part.
Yes.
Of the discussion.
Okay, board members, vote when your lights appear. Okay, and that passes unanimously.
So now, board members, the contract before you would read for a period, instead of for a period commencing on July 15th, the period would commence on June 27th, 2023 today. Everything else remains the same, and it would be appropriate, unless you had further board discussion, to vote on the main motion of the contract.
Okay, thank you. And Superintendent Davis?
Yes, ma'am, the chair. So first and foremost, thank you so very much for allowing me to lead this school district. It has been one of the toughest, journeys that I've ever had to transition through. But openly, I'm glad it was me. I think board members who are on that panel to be able to allow me to lead, and I agree with Dr. Hahn. You're here for a reason. This school district openly needed a disruptor. I am completely that. And one that's also innovative but really surgical about moving the needle instructionally for students. We made some great accomplishments, things that people, when I applied for the job, said never happened in a big school district. And I'm proud of this team, our efforts, our energies, because it's been remarkable. And I thank the board for supporting me, and I know I put you in some very tough situations. But openly, you will always remember that's who I am as a leader, and I do not apologize for that. And with that said, thank you for allowing me to go be with my family. They have been the champions of who I am as a person and as a leader. 25 years have given them my heart. So, ready to go home. So thank you.
Oh.
I'm sure they're very proud of you. Absolutely.
Very proud.
Very proud.
Did a hell of a job.
Okay, we will now, Member Rendon, Member Rendon?
Oh, yeah, sorry, we were back to the comments on the contract.
Yes. Okay, let's go back.
No, we did. You had the motion that interrupted right?
Okay. So now we're going to go back and vote on the so we changed the date. So now we're going back to the original contract, which is 402 with that modification. Oh, that's going to make me sad.
Ms. Rendon, I think, wants to speak.
Okay, Member Rendon?
Sorry, I hate to go after that, I've got to go back to business, and that's just really not, you could have waited at the end.
I can leave now.
No.
Fan has July 11th, by the way.
No.
That's all yours. One-on-ones tomorrow, they're yours.
You're still on the hook for a couple more weeks. We just, had to have like that ownership. But again, sorry that I'm going after that. It is my clarification that the motion was in the middle of discussion. So that's why I put my name in, because we're still in discussion on the contract. So just to clarify, because I don't have the contract of Superintendent Davis, so I know that you made clarification that part of Superintendent Davis's contract was some automatic increases based upon that, which we don't have on this one. But is there any other changes to the contract that are not the same currently that we've changed moving forward?
So yeah, a couple more technical things. There's no evaluation as part of this contract because it's an interim contract, and you can decide whether to do that or not. The automatic raises are different. The current superintendent had both a car allowance and access to a driver. That's been removed, and there'll just be a straightforward car allowance. And the contract of the current superintendent provided for a certain amount of termination notice, which we changed to only 30 days. And I think those are the major changes. Everything else is pretty much the same. The big one is the major salary increases.
Correct. And then the last but not least, just double checking, the simple very thing is we're doing a car allowance, but that's not car allowance and mileage, just car allowance.
It's just car allowance, right? And that's standard, whether it's school district or private industry or local government.
Yeah, just clarifying that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Vaughn?
Superintendent Ayers, are you going to say through the chair every time? No, I'm just kidding. That's not my question. My question was number 12, this thing about having a comprehensive medical exam. Is that something that we've
That's
gotten
always
before?
been in the superintendent's contract, and it provides more protection to the board that your superintendent is healthy, and it's standard language.
So have we gotten a medical reports at some point? Has that been upheld? I'm very confused because I've never seen a medical exam.
Dr. Whalen could address that, I think.
He submitted that
We have
to
a
us
question.
last year.
I'm
Okay.
in really good shape.
Oh, he's, yeah. Yeah,
Really
so
healthy.
Dr. Whalen has indicated.
Okay.
Yeah. One more if I, yeah, are you finished? Or-
The answer was yes. That's standard, and he submitted one, and we could request to see it if we wanted to. Did you have something to add?
More back to Ms. Rendon when you're done.
Oh, okay. I'm done. Thank you.
The only other difference is when Mr. Davis became superintendent, he was coming off Clay County as an elected official, so his sick leave and vacation were completely different than Mr. Ayers, who is a longtime Hillsborough County employee. So that had to be changed, but that was more a function of his role as a former elected official who doesn't get vacation days or sick days, and Mr. Ayers, who is a 28-year employee.
Great. Anybody else, any comments before we vote on the contract? Anybody else? Any board members? Okay. Board members, please vote when your lights appear. So we're voting for the contract now. And it passes unanimously. Okay, and the next is 401, which is superintendent search and timeline. Mr. Jim Porter, our school board attorney, will highlight this item.
Yeah, but thank you, Madam Chair and board members. This item does not require a vote. This is more of an opportunity for the board to give guidance about how you want to proceed, given that you have an interim superintendent. Previously, I provided to you the timeline and process that the previous board used to select Mr. Davis. That was a 5-month process. Thanks to what we're calling the Hahn Amendment, you now have a 1-year runway to look for a new superintendent. Dr. Whalen is prepared to talk to you about what a search firm would look like. She's also reached out to FSBA if the board wanted to use them. They have the capacity to do any 3 searches at one time, and there are 2 at this point. So they could do it, and there's a cost associated with that, and she could go over that with you. One of the things I think, though, that you need to think about is the school calendar. And so one of the suggestions that FSBA had is this is June, and maybe taking a temperature check in October to see where this board is with the search. There's no hurry for it. Again, a year is a very long time to do it. The last search process took 5 months, and the steps would be similar, but in October you could decide to maybe doing soft pieces of the search, like having the consultant, if you choose a consultant, interview each of you to start determining job description, qualifications, the qualities that you want. And if you wanted to do a search, really begin hard in January, because we found that in November and December, it's very hard to engage the community. When the board did the search the last time, there was heavy community engagement, and we would recommend that you do that as well. But it really isn't going to be productive to do that in November and December. So that's the general outline. When we originally came forward last week, we thought there would be a 6-month contract, and so the timeline would have been sort of a much faster one. This is a very generous timeline. So at this point, all we need is general input from you. There's no vote taken today. It's just more of an opportunity for staff to hear what this board wants as it approaches the idea of a search for a superintendent.
And I will do the motion, correct? I just want to be sure.
Don't need
Okay,
to
I
do a
just saw it on my
motion.
agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda. It's on the agenda. It's not an action item at this
I
point, though.
wanna make sure.
We can take that off. So this is more if you could get your minds into workshop mode, even though we're in a special call board meeting. This is just to get input from you all. No decisions made today, and again, the year's is a very generous timeline. So it's more about what your expectations are for what this looks like. And we'll take notes, and then we'll come back at a future time and present something to you.
Okay, great. And it's 10:56, so we have about an hour to discuss things. So we'll go ahead and if you want to get up in the queue and discuss just what that will look like. Member Gray, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and my remarks will not be to say whether I agree or disagree with Nationwide search or the Florida School Board Association search or no search when I make remarks about the various superintendents. However, when we go into the conversation of Nationwide search, we don't always get there's a season for hiring superintendents, and the worst time
Actually, there's two worst times. One is during an election year, because those, and there's 4 board members that will be up for reelection, might be caught in the middle of a, let's just say, an unpopular or very popular venue as it relates to the choice of the superintendent. The second consideration is if you don't give your time due diligence, we don't get to have the community input, which is so very valuable. We oftentimes have the remarks that we didn't have enough time for community input. So the summer, of course, is not the best time because superintendents have to prepare for the year. But anyway, going into that, a nationwide search, what does a search do for us? It keeps it objective, makes the process very transparent. It gives community leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, those in the community some buy-in time. And also it gives our own staff members time to also apply. So we don't want to go ahead and just say one person fits all. We did have a history before, after Mary Ellen Ilya, the superintendent, was fired, cost us $1 million, and then we had 4 board members who did that, and then they hired, as we went through history, Jeff Akins, a very popular superintendent and very loved. But there too, they got pigeonholed for doing whatever they did, be it right or wrong. So, there's a caution that you just appoint one person without any wide variety, whether we agree or disagree. Some of you who are in business know all too well that you have to interview more than one person, because if not, you don't know really what's out there. Secondly, we're the 7th largest district in the country, and we have, and I know of 2 individuals who very much want to come to Hillsborough County as a superintendent. So there are people out there, and I'm not going to say, because once you say someone, their whole board knows, et cetera, et cetera. So can't do that. The communities, I think more and more are very much, this is a politicized time, and the communities are also getting that way. And politically, we have to be very adept and make sure that we are objective. Because without that, that name may not be a happy name for a lot of folks. So anyway, when we look at how previous superintendents were appointed, or it was Farnell, he was the only elected superintendent we had in his, and you remember this, Member Washington, he was an elected superintendent. And after that, all superintendents have been appointed. So, and that was true of Mary Ellen Ilya. She was appointed. True of Jeff Akins. He was appointed without nationwide search. So one of the reactions that happened is that, we just got a person, but now this board, 3 of us, and the other board members on the school board decided we want a nationwide search, variety. And by the way, and I think you all have something to look forward to, I learned a lot about superintendents. I learned what to look for, what talents they had. It was an excellent learning experience. So I think we have that to look forward to. We do know that Superintendent Davis came out of, I think we had over 100-something applicants, and then we went to 10, then we went to 5, and then we went to 3. But it gave all of us a very defined time, and we had, every one of us gave what attributes we thought were important for a superintendent. And that meant that what we got reflected what the board received. So there's a lot of good on that, but I'm running out of time, so I'll go ahead and yield the floor and get back in the queue. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Rendon?
Mr. Porter, you mentioned that Dr. Whalen had a presentation to give us. Could you give us that presentation?
It's not really a presentation. She's done some research. She's happy to.
Well, then could you share?
There's no PowerPoint with this. It's more of a, she's reached out to different search firms and also FSBA, and she was also heavily involved in the process when Mr. Davis was selected as the head of human capital.
I think it would be helpful if you shared that information so that if we had questions, we're able to have it.
So with regards to the information Mr. Porter already provided to you, that was the timeline that we used in the last search back in 2019 to 20. But I did speak with Andrea Messina yesterday, and just to get some pricing and some other things because they did not work with us the last time. And as she explained, interim status is the best job interview for the position. And she really did recommend like that 3-month pulse check. And at the current time, we have the job description that was developed by the board in 2019. And so I do encourage you to take a look at that at this present time, the alignment with the strategic plan. We also have the evaluation instrument that was agreed upon by Mr. Davis's contract that is also aligned with the strategic plan as some highlights during these next few months. Should you, decide then how you want to proceed in moving forward. But I think the most important priorities right now, as you all have already articulated and spoken about, is the stability for the district and then also the opening of this upcoming school year for the district as well.
So with that being said, did they have any costs associated? You said you had a couple firms.
Yes, she's gave the cost of $35,000, and then there would be travel expenses related to that, based on how many people you would want to have come in, and putting them up in hotels and those travel expenses. That would be an add-on.
That's for FSBA?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that statewide or national?
Well, they could have national applicants that would be coming.
Okay, so they would be doing just a basic search across the country, knowing that we're such a large school district.
Correct.
And then was there any other search firms that you had a comparison with?
No, our last one that we used, the company on the previous agenda item, was around $45,000. So it's in that range, $35,000 to $50,000.
And if I remember correctly, the last one was nationwide as well.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I know, that was so. Yeah, you could start my time again. I thought it was helpful. If we're going to have a discussion, we at least have something to start off with. I think one of my most important parts of this, and I participated in this as a parent, the last search. And I think that's one of the critical things. As we have seen over the course of the last couple of years, families are more involved, as they should be. And so getting the input of families in this process is going to be critical and important. A lot of times there's a lot of miscommunication, and not necessarily on our part, but maybe a perception. They take a perception and make that reality. And so I think it's really important that we engage the community as much as we can. I think that's going to be our first piece of that, even before we look at a search, because I think the community as a whole needs to be a part of what is important to them. I think our teachers and our faculty need to be a part of that. What do they feel? How do they think? What is important in a leader to them? Because for all intents and purposes, perception is reality. And so we need to be mindful and respectful of that as we move forward. So if I could say anything on the time frame, I would like to do one thing bigger than we did last time, and that's bolster our community input, bolster our staff input on the process of developing what that superintendent will look like. And I agree. I think I agree with FSBA. Mr. Ayers is going to have his hands full of really doing two things at once. He's auditioning for a job and doing the job at the same time. So, but it is definitely the most, the best way we can see work being done at the same time, because our district is so unique. We have so many aspects of different areas, different schools, different magnets, different charters. And so we are so complex, and we're like no other, and yet being some rural or some in the city, we're just so big and so vast. And so I think having that experience, it's going to be hard to find somebody with that vast experience to walk in our door. And so I think the first thing we should look at is definitely our community and our staff input. That is a critical need. And I think, that's where we should focus first and foremost. So I would definitely like to see us kind of postpone the beginning of a search until we as a board can really come together collectively with our community and with our staff to know exactly what we're looking for that next leader. Because it's just moving forward, right? What is our next thing? Are we looking we're looking innovative? Are we looking at conservatively from a fiscal point of view, from an operational point of view? I think we have to make those decisions as we continue the strategic plan as we've been moving. Is Superintendent Ayers going to recommend some changes? I think that's important, that if that's going to happen, we don't want to disrupt our staff or our students any more than we have to. And that's going to be critical as we move forward. So thank you for giving us that input.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. Well, I just want to share my thoughts because that's what I feel like this is kind of an opportunity for us all as board members to just identify what we're interested in. I agree. I think we've all agreed that community input is important. I can say that I've already gotten a lot of feedback in general about what people kind of value going forward and what they're looking for. I would love if, and I know that it's not always the most engaging, but if we can send out a survey to our families as well as to our staff, maybe like around late August, early September, after the summer, after we've had the first few weeks of school started. I know not everybody engages in surveys, but even if we could get some data to kind of allow people who aren't able to come to public forums necessarily or come to community meetings to give their input. I always find surveys are at least a starting point and allow more accessibility for people. So I would love to get some feedback from surveys. I would love to start talking about it late September. I think waiting till mid-October, I wouldn't want to see anything be pushed off, even though I know we've given ourselves a lot of grace. I think that it is going to be big conversations for us. I know we're all going to have, certain things that we want to talk about and value, and I want to have as many opportunities to have those discussions as possible. Personally, I'm not open to, I am open to, but I don't think we should do a nationwide search. I think that Florida is so complex in general. I think that even just doing it outside of Hillsborough, anyone coming outside of Hillsborough, it's going to be a challenge, but I am open to that. But I would worry about someone who hasn't been in Florida already, because there is so much going on with the state, so much input, and education is such a focus right now, especially from the state. I think someone coming from outside of the state, it would be a really big challenge. So I think that's kind of a little bit of a waste for us. That's just my opinion. Again, I would be open to it. I would rather do a Florida search and not a nationwide search. I think someone coming from out of state, it would be setting them up for failure in general, but that's just my opinion. I'm personally not in love with the Florida School Board Association being the one to help facilitate that. I would prefer to see what other options we have, and I would like for us all to have an opinion in that, and for us all to vote on whomever we're going to use if we decide to use somebody. I know at some point that might have been up to the discretion of the chair. I'm not quite sure. Okay.
The last time it was a piggyback, but that still has to be voted on by the board. I said this the last time. This board is completely in charge of this. You give us guidance and we implement it, but it's your wishes.
I really like the opportunity to see who wants to come and be here and what that looks like, and have a conversation about, what strengths they have. So I look forward to this process. So again, just to kind of reiterate, I would love like a survey to go back, go out around September for us to start having community meetings, around that time, so we can start to get feedback. I think is important for us to start to have conversation about it and choose a board and go forward and see what that looks like. So that's just my personal feedback. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Perez?
So, Dr. Whelan, I have a question. So, in the search that we did in 2019, what you say is about $45,000. Is that the final cost to the district that we paid at that time?
No, we would have also paid for any travel expenses. Right. That's all a part of.
So what was the final cost?
I do not have that.
You don't have. Okay.
The other pieces of that, Member Perez, there was a brochure developed. There were communication strategies. That's all in addition to the contract with the consultant. So the contract for the consultant is going to be under $50,000. There are added expenses with the search.
Right. Okay. I just want the public to hear that it's just not at the 45. There's added expenses to that. So what I'm looking for, I'm not a fan of a nationwide search, but also I don't know if I'm a fan of a statewide search, because here in Florida there's so many pockets of different communities that don't mimic Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County is the size of Rhode Island. It's very different. We're the 7th largest in the nation. But our community is so diverse that, and our historical value is so different. I sit on the board of FSBA, and I'm not a fan of that either, about having them, just being honest, of having them, do the search. Just gonna say that. And also, I'm with the board members who were saying that putting out a survey. In the beginning of school, we send our students home with a packet to have their parents fill out, to send back home. And I was just wondering if maybe in that packet we could do a small survey, because that's going to hit every household, to see what they're looking for, what their needs are. What has been met, what hasn't been met, in that survey. But also, what I'm looking for is a dialogue to get the temperature of the district. Not just the community, but also, as far as the teachers in the schools, to see what their needs are. Because that's important. That's important to me as a board member. And I'm sure it's going to be important when we're looking for a superintendent. Yeah, but you mentioned something about the 3 months, seeing, what we have in Mr. Ayers, and, and taking the temperature as far as what he's doing here.
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Combs. Thank you, Member Rendon, for your comments and for requesting the information. I appreciate that, and for Dr. Whalen for providing it. I like the idea of a 3-month pulse check to see if or how we want to move forward with the search. I think that is thoughtful. And I would encourage everyone, even though we're not doing a formal evaluation with Mr. Van Ayers, to utilize the evaluation rubric to, utilize it starting now. Like, I always take mine, I take notes on it as, so leading up to a decision and an evaluation, I have everything together. And then that can help figure out at that 3-month point, if we're on the right track, so to speak. As far as the survey, of course, I love the idea of getting community input. I think, though, that instead of just, we need to give some direction on that survey. We know the overall goal is to get community input, but is the survey going to be getting input around the job description, the timeline, whether it's internal, state, or national? Like, what is the true, real goal of the questions, so that when staff designs that survey and writes those questions, it's really the type of information we want to capture, valuable information. And I would imagine each of us are going to go out into our communities and do our own community meetings and set up, coffees or listen and learn, or, whatever it is that we do in our communities to get that information. I do not have an appetite for national search. I'm for many of the same reasons that Member Vaughn stated. So I'm not sure about a statewide versus just internal only. I think I need a little bit more time with that, but I'm leaning more toward and just internal search, which would probably lead to another discussion on who will lead that and the cost of that if it's only internal. So that's kind of where I am right now on this. I do like the idea of a 3-month pulse. Let Superintendent Ayers kind of get his footing and make some decisions that might move the needle a little bit between now and 3 months. And then, in certain areas, and, see how he engages with the community and the decisions he makes around staff. And, then I think in 3 months we'll have a snapshot, and it'll at least inform us as to maybe, you know, the type of search we want to do and so forth. So I appreciate that information, Dr. Whalen. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Washington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There have been many times where I've hired, during my years as an administrator or military personnel, that I've hired people for positions, but this is totally different. This is something that I'm not familiar with, and we're going to need help because we have 3 board members that have never done this before. Well, 4, really. We have to depend on Dr. Hahn and Perez and Lynn. We have to depend on you guys because we've never been through this before. I need to get a picture how it's going to look. For example, if we got community involvement, how we got to find a way how we're going to organize it and get the community involved. So all communities, it can't be like east, west, it has to be all the communities because the superintendent is for every student in Hillsborough County. How the survey is going to look, what type of, what are we going to use for the survey? I mean, what questions we're going to use for the survey. We have to get teachers, students, parents, and everybody involved in this. This is not a one-sided type of survey. The cost of the search itself, the national search, that's a lot of money. 35, 40,000, that's just the beginning because you're going to have to, like you say, hotels and other expenses we're going to use. So that's going to be very expensive. I know the last time the school system had a national search going on, we spent a lot of money. We spent a hell of a lot of money for a national search, and then we ended up getting somebody from on the inside. So therefore, it put the district in a precarious area because we went out and spent all that money, but then we had a great person. We had a person we got from the inside. So we have to look at all of this because it's about money too. We can't go broke looking for a superintendent. I mean, because we need to use good common sense when we are looking for someone, and not just looking to say, oh, well, we did a national search, boy. Oh man, Hillsborough County is really great. They did a national search. And then we end up getting somebody from the inside. Looking at it from a viewpoint, what is the real goal? What are we looking for? We got to have a real goal when we're looking for a superintendent. And we definitely need input from everybody, including the newspapers. I mean, everybody have to have input. I mean, everybody has to have input. I think that's important. We don't want to leave anybody out. So that's my mindset on what possibly could be done in order to help out with the search we're working on. Thank you, Madam Chair, for those.
Thank you, Member Washington. We don't need to say this. This is probably one of the biggest decisions that we make as a board. Who our leader is by far one of the most, because it really drives policy, it drives our finance, it drives so much of that. So it's really important that it's a very transparent process. I think internally and externally, people need to know it was a very transparent process, that something wasn't chosen ahead, and that there is input from parents, that there's input from community, there's input from government, there's input from leaders, from chambers. So it's very important that we don't already say, this is what we think. But I also think that we need a few months. I think Superintendent Ayers needs a few months. I think 3 months is fair to give him a few months. It gives us time to establish the beginning of the year. It gives us time to settle in. And then it gives us time to really look at a search. I absolutely think we have to do a state search, if not a national search. We are the 7th largest district in the country. To think that we are just going to look internally is not fair or right. I don't think it's a transparent process. That is the biggest decision. As I said, 7th largest with so many challenges. I think when we're looking internally, if there's an external candidate in Colorado, they'll know if there's a position in Hillsborough if they want to apply. I don't think we necessarily need to do national, but it's very easy to add to a few websites to be national. And I think the cost of finding someone, regardless, and we want someone who's going to be here for a long time, We don't want someone who's going to be here for 1, 2, or 5 years. We'd like someone for a long period of time. And we see around the state that superintendents are leaving left and right, either getting fired or leaving in their own accord. You can look around the nation, or around the state, what's happening. So I think it's very important that, that we support Superintendent Ayers for the 3 months, give him that time. And at the same time, we look internally as well as statewide. For me, my biggest thing is, if I am choosing an external candidate, my concern is I don't want someone who's going to bring in 50 people with them. So that would be the thing. I think this district wants stability. We want to make sure we have the right leader. We want to make sure we have the right cabinet members, but we also want to make sure there's some consistency and that people are feeling not as concerned or worried. Are they going to be replaced, or what's going to happen in 3 months? So providing some stability and letting them know that we are doing that search and that we do fully support Superintendent Ayers, I think is very, very important. But I think we have to. We can't say that we're being transparent and then say we're only going to look internally. That's just not right. We have to do an external, I think, process as well, external and internal, and that's just my opinion. Thank you. Member Gray?
And there's commonalities that the board members are sharing that I think, Mr. Porter, we will probably, if you're taking notes, that you are taking notes. Good. I think you'll see the idea. Of course, we want to be fair to the Superintendent Van Ayers. He wants competition. He doesn't want to just be put in. I mean, that we have had that before, where we had a superintendent who was appointed by a few board members, and bingo, the backlash comes not in the newspaper necessarily, but it comes in different parts of the communities. To your point, Member Washington, the inherent part of a search comes with survey, comes with the community meetings, comes with teacher and staff meetings. I mean, those are things that board members can ask for, and it will happen. One of the most important things, I believe, for communities and for board members is the idea that they can choose the attributes that is most important to them in terms of what a leader should be. Should the leader be politically savvy? Should the leader be financially very up to date with the finance, such as a business leader? We've also had board members that wanted a business leader to be a superintendent. And then the political affiliation. Do we need a superintendent that is very politically savvy? We had over 50 education bills. And next session is coming right up. We might have more than another 20. So, the absolute attributes each of us get to choose, and that is so critical. And we're going to learn that Van Ayers probably has attributes that each of us agree with. But without an education and without giving each board member a chance to be objective is not fair to each of us. And so I agree. In 3 months, we know that the summer is not a place or time to pick and choose a superintendent. It's not a season, and superintendents are already preparing for their next year. So forget the summer, right? The search takes a while, or does it? Not really. It can be as short as 4 or 5 months. It depends on how many meetings that you want the communities to be involved in. If you get into March, May, June, you're getting into the election season. And while those board members who may or may not run for re-election, some of us will, and we do care. And that's the same as boundaries. It affects your election. So that has to be also thought of. So 3 months, yes, that's a given. Will Van Ayers know what to expect? Will he have confrontations? Will he have to undo some systems that Superintendent Davis began or that we've had? Absolutely. And by the way, how popular will that be? Some of us board members or some of the community members may lean on you. You got to watch. It's not a assumable, deliberate, yes, this man is it. He wants to prove himself. Cost. the cost is greater if you don't invest in one of the most important decisions, is finding the right superintendent. We did spend $1 million on Mary Ellen Lilia. We did spend up to $50,000, to your point and question, Member Perez, when we did a nationwide search. And we could go just Florida, which is, to me, very practical. And that would be a cost, assumingly, from what we just heard, thank you, Marie Whalen, of $40,000. But the cost of not choosing the right person is greater than not having the selection. You can't undervalue an objective, a choice, and what you want in a superintendent, each of you. And that may change. Member Hahn, you and I, and Member Perez, we may have different values now that we are looking for in a superintendent. We were younger, a little bit, sorry about that, but younger in experience. I changed from 2016 when I was a board member. I mean, I look for many other things now that it's in 2024. Whoops, time's up. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. It does feel like every decision we make is the most important decision. I swear that is said at every decision that we've made at this point, whether it's boundaries or districting. I think we've been through some of the most important decisions. Thank you for Dr. Hahn for saying we need clarification around the surveys. I think that's important. When I envision it, going home to parents is a different survey than our staff and employees. From the feedback that I've gotten from families, what they really want is good communication, understanding the decisions that we make, accessibility if they have problems, understanding how to contact the district. Those are already some things that I've heard. When it comes to our employees, making sure that they feel empowered, that they feel like they have the space to do their work as well as the tools that they need to do them, and making sure that they have the good leaders, that they understand the changes that are coming through. Again, I've already gotten some feedback, so I think we can work together as a board, especially since we have our day on Thursday to talk about some of the things that we'd like to see in the surveys. One of the points that I think Member Washington made was not just sending out the surveys, but having that presented to us in a way where we can get that feedback, like from the surveys, here's what we heard was really important from the community of families and parents. From the surveys, here's, what we heard was really important. I think that analyzing that data and presenting it to the board, kind of in the way that we did with boundaries, would be important. So I appreciate more conversation around those surveys. And again, I think together we can work to kind of identify what that would look like. And, whether they go home in packets and then they're available online, making them as accessible as possible. I think people just want an opportunity to be heard. Also, thank you, Member Hahn. I think that keeping the evaluation with us and keeping that in mind as we work with Superintendent Ayers is a great starting point and a good feedback. I kind of always forget about the evaluation, but it's the most important part. So I appreciate that reminder. Personally, I think that transparency doesn't come from how big a net that you cast or whether you identify whether somebody's going to be a good fit nationally or locally. Transparency is what we're doing right now. It's having that conversation. It's so people understand who applied and what standards we use to choose those people, and communicating and talking about it openly. So I think it's important to use the word transparency carefully, because we don't want people to think that there's anything that we're doing that isn't transparent. So I think us deciding, what would be a good fit, as long as we're having that conversation behind the reasons and we're all being very open about it, and, everybody understands the process and we're getting a lot of community feedback. That's the importance of transparency, not so much whether we go nationally or how far we cast the net, just that as we cast it, people understand what criteria we're using and how we're making the decisions. And most of all, they feel like they have a voice in that process. I think that's what's important to us. So I just wanted to kind of give that feedback as far as what transparency looks like to me, and when I use it, how I mean it. And I think the conversation has been really good. Again, I think that even though we're probably going to hit different points where we may not agree, which is typical for us as a board, that we're, again, having a friendly transfer of power, so to say, and that we're all, committed to making sure that our community hears what we want and valuing the things that are going to be important going forward. So, I'm excited about this process, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it leads. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Combs. It's funny, Member Vaughn, I wrote down a little bit ago, transparency is not where you look, it's how you look. And, I think this has been, as long as we keep our conversations in the sunshine and we provide updates in a timely manner and we include all stakeholders' voices and take in their recommendations as we're making an informed decision, we're being transparent. And I know we're all committed to that, whether it's a state or national or even internal. Again, it's how you carry out a process that makes it transparent. And so, there's never going to be a perfect time. Certainly, Member Gray brought up the fact that many of our board members will be potentially running for re-election. We're always going to have difficult issues, though, right? So you can never time things perfect. Certainly, we changed the district maps, and we were out for a referendum during the last election cycle. So I think, there's always going to be difficult decisions this board is going to make, and you will all do a fine job carrying your way through that, whatever your decisions may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Gray?
Yeah, I just remembered also Van Ayers, Superintendent Van Ayers, just as we expected, and we did receive a plan. We would love to see your strategic plan from you ASAP, because I think that would be very relevant in the time space of this 3-month defined time. I also, Dr. Whalen, I think that we also need to have various search engines. I'm not sure. I'm not savvy to other than Florida School Board Association, but from what I'm hearing from board members, some may not be cheerful about a Florida School Board Association search, but may acquiesce to another type of search engine. So that would be information. I don't know if that's in your work description, but if it's not, then I'll share it with Superintendent Van Ayers, because that has to be done. A nationwide search is not always the cure. I mean, but again, we never know. So, the education is important. And I would presume the board members will decide whether it's a Florida or it's a nationwide. I mean, I'm hearing both sides. Those are the two aspects, Van Ayers' plan as we go forward, and knowing that we will reevaluate and evaluate and so forth and so on. And Dr. Whalen, search engines for Florida would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Combs. Just to be clear, Ms. Superintendent Ayers, you're not going to be rewriting or presenting a strategic plan, because that's something that is done with the full input of this board. I would imagine you would share your vision. But just to be clear, a strategic plan is written with you did. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up so he's not going back and
thank you,
writing the
Member Hans.
strategic-
Hahn, I didn't,
Okay.
should have chose my words more carefully.
Because I don't want him to think we intend.
No, not the whole, that's good to 2026, so.
So just to clear that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Rendon?
Great input from many members of the board. I don't want to assume that any board member feels one way or the other at this point. I think this was a great open discussion. And I think that's what we all need to remember, that as we hear different things from the public or different people, we're going to have different ideas, and things may change, and we will get different perspectives because, excuse me, it's not just my opinion, but it's my opinion of this entire community. And when I say community, I mean Hillsborough County. Once we sit on this seat, we no longer represent one person, and we no longer represent a specific district. We all represent the county at all times. So, Mr. Porter, moving forward from here, where would be the next time in which this board would discuss next step measures? Will we be planning a workshop, or where will be the next time within the sunshine that the public will understand our next steps?
So I think it's up to the board to do that. My recommendation would be that we'll take the information that you've given us today and work on establishing a workshop. But this sort of served the purpose of a workshop for the initial steps. This was originally intended for you to adopt a timeline, but because you have a year to do it, that's really not on the table. So I think we'll take this information. What I'm hearing from all of you is that the 3-month, most of you, or just to be clear, the 3-month pulse is really sort of what you're looking for. So I think we would look at coming to you sometime, maybe late September, October, with sort of next steps and really solidifying what you want the process to look like. So, but that's, we're open. I want to be really clear about this. You all drive this, and I don't want you all, any of you, to ever feel that this is something that you're being forced to do. But what I heard today was that 3 months is a good opportunity to sort of check in. And so I think the next steps would be sometime within that time frame, scheduling a workshop with the chair and with Mr. Ayers to have this information in more solid form, and then really decide how you want to proceed. That would be my recommendation, but again, it's up to you all of how you want to proceed. So we're looking at not doing anything between now and late September, early October, and allow him to get the school year started and find his feet and start leading the district, and then really decide next steps after that point. That's what I've heard. Happy to, that can be modified at any time.
Okay, just to clarify what your recommendations are, because sometimes it appears a little vague to me. So if we go off of a workshop would be our next time within the sunshine to solidify our time frame, because right now we did not vote on any time frames.
Correct.
So right now we just had a discussion of what our thoughts were.
Correct.
So at the next point, we would need a workshop in September to establish a timeline starting in October, because that would be the 3-month mark, no matter which way we look at it. Even if we did a workshop in August, it wouldn't start, our time, we would establish a timeline. So we're looking at a workshop to establish a timeline, to establish our characteristics of a superintendent, and then make a decision on whether or not we do a search firm and whether that would be nationwide or statewide. Am I clear on that? Sure. So that would be all voted on in a workshop?
Well, we would take the information from the workshop and put it on a board agenda. You don't vote in workshops, and so
I get that, because you said we're going to talk about it at the workshop. I want to make sure we're clear.
And to be clear, there's no legal requirement that you vote on a process. I think it's important that you do, because then this board has ownership of it. And so, again, there's no legal requirement that you have to legally vote on his contract. You don't have to vote on a timeline. The last time the board did, and I think it gave some validity to the process and also ownership. So if that timeline is acceptable to the board, we would have that and then bring it back to a board meeting for a formal vote on a timeline and process.
So again, I think that we definitely need to look at September, because if we're going to do that and then add on a vote, we need to be early September. I will caution this board, though, with that time frame, the concept of that. We've got, again, if we bring it to a workshop in September, we're going to be voting at the end of September, beginning October for the timeline. The other thing is we're going to go through a lot of transition over the course of August and into September on our new systems that we're implementing, our computer systems. And so we want to make sure we're very clear when we're getting feedback from our staff and our families that that there's a separation between what's happening in some of our processes as what's happening there. So I want to make sure as we move forward with that. So just want to make sure we're clear that the next time in the sunshine, we're going to be discussing this will be at a workshop moving forward.
Unless the board directs otherwise, yes.
And how would we do that if we chose to do it otherwise? Because once we leave here, there's no opportunity to do that. So how would we?
For instance, at a board meeting in the sunshine, a board member could ask a question or ask a comment, ask it to be placed on an agenda. So that's the way that's done. It has to be in the sunshine. And again, if the board today also wants to have other input into when you want this to come back, that's up to you. But that would be the way it would be done. We wouldn't do anything else until that time frame. And if something wanted to be done sooner, or if you wanted to change it to later, you would bring it up at a board meeting or a workshop and add it to an agenda, and then you could vote on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Yes, and so what we'll do is today we'll pull out the workshop calendar and look at that and look at options and then send that to you. And I think probably the most important thing is to really, Dr. Whalen, if you can just look at, because I'm hearing feedback that people would like to look at FSBA, people want to look at other options, and maybe in between that time you can start looking at other options and what that looks like and what the cost and what will be associated with that for a couple of different options for the board to look at.
Yes, and we'll talk about what that is to be able to do that, because we would have to put that out and people would have to want to engage with us as well. So we'll talk through all of that.
I think it's great that we have a whole year, because it looks like there's just going to be so many components, so many parts of that to look at, what we're looking for, what that looks like, as well as, and remember, the start of the school year is going to be challenging because we do have so many openings and we do have so many people there. It's going to be all hands on deck to get through the first 30 days with the number of absences that we have. So we have to remember that there's going to be so many components going on at that time. We have, close to 1,000 vacancies right now. So that is going to be so critical that we're looking at that. The other thing I wanted to say is that I just hope, Superintendent Ayers, that this board is really strongly behind you. We know that you're going to be successful. I wanted to make those comments. And also, Superintendent Davis, I didn't know this today, all of this was going to happen so quickly, but I just want to thank you again for your years of service. You've done some tremendous things that I think people will not even realize until later. Just the academic walks, the phonics. I could name so many things, and you've done a wonderful job. And I know that this partnership between both of you, formally or informally, will probably occur for many, many years. So at the end of the day, it is all about students and making a difference with them. So I feel very positive about everyone communicating. We want to make sure that we get that feedback from the community, from our teachers, from our cabinet, from everyone, to make sure that the right person we know the right person is in place now, and to make sure that we continue with that momentum. Thank you. Member Vaughn?
Thank you. I'll be brief. One, I would just like to point out that while it might be a cost to hire a consulting agency, we saved some money today by doing a quicker transfer between Superintendent Davis and Mr. Ayers. So we have saved some money today, and if we want to put that towards a search, I just want to, say that. That is possible. The other thing I want to make is kind of what I'm hearing is we want a 3-month process to get community feedback, but I hear Member Rendon's point about, hey, are we going to be able to discuss this in the sunshine, because a lot could change. So what I would suggest is scheduling a couple workshops on the calendar to give us the space to talk about the process as we get closer. If we feel like we don't necessarily need that, we can maybe transition those or actually let them go. We don't have to meet at every single workshop and cancel some of those, but at least to have them there, where if we've gotten some feedback along the way and we want that opportunity to have the discussion to say, hey, here's what we've heard, we'd like to move the timeline forward, or we'd like to move it back, we have that place instead of having to call special call board meetings kind of last minute. We have that space on the calendar for those. And then as we get closer, if we feel like, hey, it's the beginning of the school, we haven't really had enough time, we need more time before you finalize that, we can always let you know that, and we can move those dates. Or if we just want to have a discussion, not even finalize a timeline, we have the space to do that. Because I think it is a challenge with the sunshine laws to be able to move forward through this process, and we want as many opportunities to talk about it without disrupting a board meeting as possible. So kind of my compromise and suggestion is to put those placeholders on, and then as we get closer, maybe one in September, one in October, as we get closer, if we don't need them because we're still kind of in transition and the year took off more, is devoting more than that, we can move to the October or vice versa, but at least they're there. And that's my suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Member Gray?
And this is in response to Member Rendon and Member Vaughn. I do absolutely agree that this timeline will be very important for the stability of the district, but also for Van Ayers for his direction. So I don't want to say, and I don't want us to go on a Chase Lounge for a suntan saying, oh, we have a whole year. We really have to make sure we are earnest in getting this done. This is not like, a school year is very rapid. You blink your eyes at you're at Christmas. You blink your eyes, you're at the spring break. We have to have the timeline, and Member Vaughn, absolutely, the Chair, Madam Chair Combs can put placeholders, and she can, with the work with Van Ayers, make those workshops happen. Some can be moved, some can be combined, but I definitely think that the getting this started is best for our district. And by the way, we're the largest employer in the county, and everyone is looking at us. So for us just to be flamboyant, oh, we have a whole year, I think we have to start being a little bit more responsive and have a timeline that is published throughout the whole district and, of course, the community. And that's my 2 cents, and I know I spoke a lot, so I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. And as a board, we can look at that workshop calendar this week and look at those dates. Maybe Thursday we can look at that and put some of those dates in Thursday, so that way we can look at that. So I'll make sure we have a copy of the workshop calendar. Okay. Barring no other further comments, this meeting is adjourned.